Hello, everyone, and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 766, 766, Monday, April 29th, 2019. Thank you so much for tuning in. Well, it is Monday, so it's time to get your votes in for Dumbass of the Week. Try to get back on schedule this week. Really blew it last week. Got off by like 2 days. So let's try to get back on track this week. Go ahead and get your votes in for Dumbass of the Week. A lot of good candidates out there. So go ahead and put your comments for Dumbass of the Week, your picks, your nominations in the comment sections of this video. This will be the video that I will be checking the comment section to tally up the votes. So go ahead and get your votes in on this video. I'll check them this evening when I come in, and then on Tuesday we'll announce the winner of the Dumbass of the Week. Thank you so much for participating in that. Let's get right to the news of the day, shall we? Okay, well, it looks like Attorney General William Barr is threatening to stop, or skip, I should say, to skip the hearing with Jerry Nadler's House Judiciary Committee this week because Nadler wants to question Barr in a closed hearing after the open hearing, and he also wants to allow the questions to go beyond what was originally agreed upon. And Nadler says now that if Barr doesn't show, that he will get a subpoena. I'll tell you what, just as I said now a couple times the past couple weeks, I don't know why they're screwing with Attorney General Barr. He's got an awful lot of ammunition, you might say, to drop a whole boatload of whoop-ass on these guys. But apparently Jerry Nadler is completely unaware, or I don't know what the word would be, ignorant. I don't know what the word would be, but apparently he's not aware of what Barr is looking into, the coup and all the corrupt things that went on and happened during the 2016-2017 period, and actually going back to 2015 as well, and it still continues to some extent. So they're continuing to go after Barr, and I just think that's a really bad idea right now because all they're going to do is make him angrier and probably only give him more motivation to really drop the hammer on these guys. Now, maybe if they were to lay back and lay low, maybe he would just try to keep the damage to a minimum. But at this point, if they keep pushing on him, he'll say, fine, you want to play that way? I'm all in. You know, I'm dropping everything I got. I'm not cutting any slack to anybody on anything. And when he does come out, and the Barr knows this, Barr knows that this is a temporary situation. He has to put up with these fools, but he knows what's coming because he's the one that's going to be delivering the package. So he definitely knows what is coming for these people. So inside, I'm sure that he's laughing hard. Publicly, he's got to keep a straight face, but privately, he knows exactly what he's embarking on and how that's all going to turn out for the conspirators. And so I don't think he's bothered by this at all. I don't think he's afraid of a subpoena or anything else. Barr is about 1,000 times better lawyer than Nadler. In fact, I don't think Nadler ever even really practiced law. I know he's a lawyer. I know he's passed the bar, but I think he's been literally doing political type work most of his life. You know, he's not a seasoned attorney, a trial lawyer, or anything like that. He's just a hack. A lot like Obama, and so you know, I'm happy to see this. I hope they keep harassing Barr. I hope they keep doing this. They're only going to make him angrier, and that's good for all of us, because I think in a lot of ways Barr would probably like to get to the bottom of the conspiracy, but protect as much as possible the DOJ and the FBI. But if they keep pushing on him like this, he's just going to drop everything he's got. He'll cut nobody any slack, and that's where I think that they're going with this. And one thing I love about Barr, and again, I'm liking him more every day. I'm still not 100% convinced that he isn't going to try to sweep some things under the rug and that sort of thing. I won't believe it till I actually totally believe it till I see it. But for now, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt because of a lot of things I'm seeing from him. And one of the things I certainly do observe at this point, before Trump came along, Republicans did not have the courage to fight back against the left-wing loonies. Trump has given a lot of them the courage to do that. And now we see with Barr, unlike Sessions and certainly Rodenstein, Barr is a completely different animal. You can tell that when he's in these hearings and he's being questioned by Democrats, you can tell he's not the least bit intimidated by them. And you can tell that he doesn't let them bully him around, and he will call them out on it. So they're dealing with another person very much like a Trump. They're dealing with the guy who is not going to let himself be rolled. He's not afraid of them. He's not intimidated by them. And he's not going to play their games. So this is all a very good sign about William Barr. At least we know that we have someone there who is a fighter, who will not take their crap, and as far as we know, is going to be unbiased and dealing out equal justice under the law, just as he said he would in his hearings. So far, everything that Barr said he was going to do, he has done. So I continue to give him the benefit of the doubt, but we'll continue to watch. But there's one thing we know for sure. He doesn't take crap from these left-wing loonies, just like Trump. And that's a very, very good sign. So a lot of people commenting over the last few days, it's the first chance I've had to talk about it, about Judge Andrew Napolitano and him making that video saying where Trump is absolutely guilty of obstruction. Well, you know, I'm not a huge fan of Napolitano. Sometimes I like him, sometimes I don't. He's a self-promoter, and of course he wants to keep himself relative, so he keeps getting his little spots on Fox and things and such. But I watched that video, and you know, he's wrong. I mean, I know he's this judge, former judge, and I'm not even a lawyer, but it's very simple. Two things. He lays out all these things. Well, Trump told McGahn to fire Mueller, and McGahn said, no, I'm not going to do that, and if I do, I'd resign, but I wouldn't do that. And he got mad and said we need to shut this thing down and fire Sessions and fire Rodenstein and all these. You know, look, did he do it? No, he did not. Is it a crime for him to say these things? No, it is not. Why? Because he can fire any of these people. The chief executive under Article 1 is the executive branch. Everything flows from the executive. Trump could have fired Mueller, Rodenstein, Wray, Comey, anyone and everyone. Now, is it a politically good idea? No, it is not. But it is not legal. The president legally could have fired anyone he wanted, including Mueller, in the executive branch. And therefore, he is free to say to anyone he wants who works for him to do whatever he wants them to do. Now, they don't necessarily have to do it. They may push back and say, that's probably not a good idea. And all presidents go through this with their attorney generals and with their various lawyers in the government. So this is not unusual. This is just typical things that go on between a president and members of his staff or his legal counsel or whatever. Trump did absolutely nothing illegal. He could have fired Mueller and anyone else. He did not. He provided every document they asked for. He allowed his entire team, including his lawyer, to testify without limit. He did not exert executive privilege. He did respond to Mueller's questions in written form. The only thing he chose not to do was to sit for a personal interview. And any lawyer would have told their client that that's not something that you would do unless they have a serious charge that they can make. And there was no serious charge. They were fishing. And you don't go sit down with a prosecutor when they're on a fishing expedition. This is common sense and everyone knows it. And Napolitano knows it. So the real story to this, and Trump tweeted out about it earlier, is that at some point during his administration, Napolitano came to Trump and essentially asked him, Napolitano asked Trump to nominate him for the court, the Supreme Court. That's what he said he wanted, a nomination to the Supreme Court. And Trump said no. Not only that, Napolitano had asked Trump to offer a pardon to someone who Napolitano knows. And Trump didn't do that either. Not that he may not. I don't know who the person is that they're talking about, but he may and he may not at some point. But Trump says that that's the real reason that Napolitano is going after him, is because Trump turned down his request to be nominated for the Supreme Court in this issue with someone he wants to have pardoned, and Trump did neither. And again, I'm not a big fan of Napolitano. You never know what he's going to say. I think a lot of the things he says to stir up controversy so that they'll bring him back on TV. Like a lot of these people, once they get on TV and they see themselves on Fox, they fall in love with themselves. And they can't wait to see themselves on TV again. Plus, they get paid for these appearances. Plus, it helps them with their book sales. It helps keep them relative. And that's what he needs. And so, occasionally, he has to come out and say something stupid so that they can bring him on TV so that he can get a little bit more face time. That's what it's all about for Judge Napolitano. He's not even a footnote in history in all of this, so we'll let it go at that. Now, let's go on to the next thing. Well, we still have the wild-eyed commie, Ocasio-Cortez, calling for ICE to be abolished in a speech. And she also says, quote, "I don't care if you're documented or undocumented. It's about human rights." Well, it matters a lot whether you're legal or illegal. In fact, that's the whole point. It does matter whether you're legal or illegal. It certainly matters to a lot of the people who came here legally, I can assure you of that. But the problem here is, my friends, and most of you know this, you can't fix stupid. You can't fix stupid. And she suffers from that problem. She's stupid. She can't help it. So, in a way, I feel like it's bad to beat up on her because she can't defend herself. She's too dumb to even defend herself. But you can bet that Ocasio-Cortez, right now, the Democratic Party is working on very hard on finding a couple people to run against her in 2020. And again, as I said, we should enjoy Ocasio-Cortez for these 2 years that 2 precious years that we have her for comedy relief, because unfortunately after that she'll likely be gone. There we go. That's page 1. Let's go on. Well, guess who was on MSNBC, PMSNBC this morning? Silly Sally Yates. Yep. She was on MSNBC, and they were talking, of course, about the Russian thing. And she, of course, is still spinning the Russian narrative because, like all of her co-conspirators, that's all they can do. And she says that when Russians, literally said this on air, she says that when Russians came knocking at their doors, it would have been the patriotic thing to have notified law enforcement. How crazy a statement is that? First of all, they had no idea that the Russians were knocking on their doors because they weren't Russians. They were spies working for the CIA, the FBI, MI6, private contractors, and God knows who else. There were no Russians knocking on any doors. Unbelievable. You see, they have to stay with this Russian narrative. And they're going to keep talking about the Russian narrative and all the supposedly this hoax story, which I still don't believe, about the Russians hacking the DNC and meddling in our elections and all these sorts of things, because they think if they stay on this point and continue to bloviate about it, that it's going to be able to protect them when they're facing indictments, because they're going to try to say, hey, we were just trying to, deal with the fact that the Russians were meddling in our elections. It was this horrible thing that was going on. So they're going to keep talking about that. But here's where the problem is for all of these people. It's not so much any of that. Okay, let's go ahead and say there were Russians involved and all these sorts of things. The bottom line is, and the reason that they're all going to be in trouble, is because of how they did what they did. What they should have done is gone to the Trump campaign and said, hey, do you know that the Russians are trying to, inject themselves into your campaign or compromise people on your campaign? But they didn't do that. Instead, they launched a supposed investigation, which wasn't really an investigation. It was a smear job to try to stop Trump from being elected, and then when that failed, they moved on to a coup. That's what really happened, and everybody knows it, including Silly Sally. So they could argue the point all day about, well, the Russians were meddling in our elections, and we had to do something, we had to take action. Really? What kind of actions did you take against the Russians? What did you do to the Russians? Because if I remember correctly, when Obama first heard about it, he came out and made a speech and said that it was ridiculous for Trump to be complaining about people meddling in the elections. Our elections couldn't be rigged because they're too, what's the word he used? I forget the exact word he used, but Obama basically came out and said that you couldn't fix our elections because of the way that they're played out in 50 different states with all the different two different parties. They all have their own people. You have all these various polling places. You have all this complex stuff going on with the American elections. It would be literally impossible to actually affect the outcome of an American election. That's the argument Obama made. And then if we look and see what they did to the Russians, they did practically nothing to the Russians. Nothing. Instead, they launched all their efforts and activities into the Trump campaign. That's the problem. And let's talk about some more problems. All the things that they did, the FISA abuse, opening up the investigation based on the fake dossier, that was all done illegally. And the even bigger problem is that's not where it all began. They actually were doing things long before that, going back as early as 2015, long before July 31st, 2016, and long before Papadopoulos ever had a meeting with Downer. So this is why these people were in a lot of trouble, as you all know. She also said that they took illegal help from a foreign adversary. What help did they get? Is she suggesting that the leaking of the DNC emails, the Podesta emails from WikiLeaks, that they were somehow involved in that? Well, first of all, Julian Assange says it wasn't the Russians or any state actor. And guess what? He's about to be extradited here to the U.S. Why do you think William Barr wants Assange extradited to the U.S.? Barr said he wants to get to the bottom of what happened. To get to the bottom of what happened, you've got to find out 100% for sure if Assange is telling the truth. And only one person can prove that with the actual evidence, and that is Assange himself. Barr is also looking into the Ukraine situation because, again, that's where the Russian narrative began. So, oh yes, Sally, A.G. Barr is going to get to the bottom of it, and we are going to find out who was operating illegally in 2016 and interacting with foreign adversaries and governments. So she says that Trump should have gone to the FBI and said, "Yo, I think the Russians are trying to meddle in our elections. I think they're trying to get involved in my team or something." This is insanity. This is absolute insanity. It's not the job of the Trump campaign. How would they know? It's the job of the FBI if they know. So no, the government should have come to Trump to advise him if they thought Russia was trying to get or co-opt someone in the Trump team or any Trump team members. And by the way, those guys were not Russians, Sally, and you damn well know it. They were spies working for the CIA, FBI, MI6, and private contractors. And they were setting traps to destroy President Trump, to stop him, just as Peter's been stoking us. We're going to stop him. That's what he said. And keep in mind, Sally Veselnitskaya was working for Hillary via Confusion GPS, along with Mr. Akhmechan. Silly Sally, you got a big problem. You signed off on one of the FISA warrants based on the phony dossier. Lawyer up. And it was Hillary's campaign that was coordinating with foreign spies and corrupt government officials to try and overturn the election by way of palace coup, Sally. Hillary, the FBI, the DOJ, the CIA, and the State Department were all working with foreign governments in the UK, Australia, Estonia, Italy, and Ukraine to interfere in the 2016 election, Sally. Sally Yates was also an integral part of the setup of Michael Flynn. And it was the DNC operative Chalupa that worked with corrupt Ukrainian officials that they used the stolen illegal dirt on Manafort to get him fired from the campaign, which was totally illegal, Sally. So why is Sally Yates going out on MSNBC? She's no longer a government official. She's no longer a government official. Why is she going out on MSNBC and defending all this? Let me tell you, for the same reason you're going to see a lot of these conspirators going out on TV to continue the Russian narrative and then to try to spin what really happened. Sally is wanting to send a message to her fellow conspirators that she's still on the team and that she hasn't caved. And all of these conspirators are going to need to do that. They need to go out there and give some confidence, because every one of them are thinking right now, oh God, we're busted. I'm in deep shit. I certainly hope they don't try to pin it on me, because that's exactly what each one of these people will think. Sally Yates is going to think that Comey, he's a snake. He'll turn on me. Loretta Lynch, she isn't going to take the fall for me. She's going to dump it all on me. So Sally Yates is out there on TV because she wants to build confidence into her co-conspirators that she has not caved, that she has not turned, that she is still on the team and staying solid. You'll see a lot more of these people out there doing this because they're terrified. Sally Yates is terrified of what's going to happen when the truth comes out. And she just wants her co-conspirators to know that she has not turned on them yet. And you'll see a lot of these people coming out doing the exact same thing, writing the Russian narrative, despite the fact that it's pretty much dead, and trying to instill confidence in their fellow conspirators that they have not yet turned on their friends, I guess you'd say, their comrades. That's what's going on with Silly Sally. Now, Trump had an awesome rally in Wisconsin last night. My guess is many of you watched it. It was a great rally, just like all his rallies. They're all great. But it's unbelievable. His support just keeps getting greater and greater. It was a sold-out crowd, as it always is, with many people left outside. It was pretty cold last night in Wisconsin, down in the 40-degree range. So they still come out by the gazillions to see Trump, even if they have to stand out in the cold and watch it on a Jumbotron. Absolutely amazing. And he made it perfectly clear again last night exactly what happened with the coup. And you get every belief from listening to Trump that he's absolutely got a plan for how he's going to unravel all this and take down the people who tried to destroy him. It's coming. Make no mistake about it. Okay, here's a crazy thing you've may not have heard of before. Or a person you've never heard of before, because he's really kind of a nobody. But his name is Eric Williams. He's a professor at Trinity College in Connecticut. My suggestion is if you are thinking about sending your kid to college, I'm not sure why you would, but if you were thinking about that, do not send them to this Trinity College in Connecticut, whatever you do. Because we have this guy, Eric Williams, so-called professor, who put out a tweet, and he's standing by it, that whiteness is terrorism. Whiteness is terrorism. I kid you not. This guy is a professor in an actual university. Years ago, when I was in college, this would have got you fired. Right now. If any professor where I went to college would have came out and put something like this out, he would have been fired immediately. This is insanity. Whiteness is terrorism. Man, oh man, the left is gone so far off the rails, it's not even... It's hard to believe, to be honest with you. New emails prove that Michael Isikoff of Yahoo News was working for the Rotten Reverend Clinton campaign and the DNC in 2016 during the elections, just as we all suspected. In fact, I think I actually said those exact words. I think I said, man, Isikoff was obviously working for the Clinton campaign. Had to be. Just because of the coordination between the things that he would put out, and then boom, as soon as he put something out, the campaign would comment on it. In fact, sometimes it would actually accidentally comment on it before the article went live, as was the case with John Podesta, or in the case of Hillary, where literally 1 minute after his posting went up, her post went up. She didn't even have time to read it. Clearly, I figured out a long time ago that Isikoff was working in cahoots with the Right Reverend Clinton. And because the Right Reverend Clinton was working in cahoots with the CIA, the FBI probably, and other creepy people, we can assume that Isikoff was in that loop as well. And Isikoff may want to lawyer up as well, because while the First Amendment protects free speech and allows journalists to do their job, what it does not protect is you to participate in a coup using your occupation as a journalist to participate in not just doing what your normal job is of writing stories, but actually coordinating with a political campaign and coordinating with a rogue government officials to carry out a coup d'etat against a presidential candidate and later the President of the United States. The First Amendment does not cover that, Mr. Isikoff. Lawyer up. His contact, by the way, between the DNC and himself was Alexandria Chalupa. Now, recently, Isikoff has tried to distance himself from Christopher Steele and the dossier. He's now saying that the Steele dossier was always a little suspect. It's not what he was saying when he was pushing it. Oh yeah, and remember, the first FISA warrant was based on. Half of it was his article that he wrote, that he got from Christopher Steele about the dossier. Now he is saying that we should all have approached this with more skepticism. We should have all approached this with more skepticism. How could we have gotten it so wrong? He's trying to cover his ass. He knew it was bullshit from day one. These guys are getting nervous. Trust me. Guess who else was on TV this morning? Who also looked very visibly nervous? Ben Rhodes. If Obama knew it, Ben Rhodes knew it. If Loretta Lynch knew it, Ben Rhodes knew it. And if Ben Rhodes knew it, Valerie Jarrett knew it. Get this, because what he says in this interview could come back to really bite him and other Obama administration officials in the ass. Listen to what this dude says. So Ben Rhodes, being interviewed this morning, says, he tells a reporter that the investigation into the Obama administration will find nothing. Well, they've already found a lot, Ben, in case you're not keeping score. They've already found a lot. So you're obviously wrong on that point right off the bat. He also said that neither he nor Obama knew that Trump was being investigated. Come on, man. That's impossible to believe. That's impossible. A lot of people are going to have to fall on the sword to protect Rhodes and Obama if that's the line that they're going to take. That means that Brennan and Clapper and Comey and Lynch and Yates are all going to fall on the sword for Obama and Rhodes. They're all going to say, yep, these guys didn't know anything. Well, then why, Mr. Rhodes, did Lisa Page tell Peter's been stroking us that they were going over for a meeting at the White House and that the White House wanted to know everything? Why is there another email from Strzok and Page where Lisa Page tells Peter's been stroking us that essentially the White House is running the show? How can you explain that one, Mr. Rhodes? He also says that decisions were made in the DOJ and FBI, not in the White House. That's bullshit. No way something this big happens without Obama knowing about it. And we already know that he was being briefed on this stuff. And we already know about the Cover Your Ass letter written by Susan Rice, where Obama says, just as she writes in her Cover Your Ass letter, that Obama said to follow the law. So clearly he was quite aware of the fact that they were involved in investigations. I will find it very, very interesting to see if when Comey, Brennan, Clapper, Yates, and Lynch are asked, if every one of them are going to say, nope, Obama didn't know about anything that was going on. Nothing. We didn't tell him anything that was going on. Or Ben Rhodes. We'll find out. We'll see how that goes, Mr. Rhodes. He says that he had nothing to do with the dossier and didn't even learn about it until after BuzzFeed published it. We know that's a lie from right now, unless Obama was keeping Rhodes out of the loop. And I find that very hard to believe. He still says to this day he has never read the dossier. And I made a note here. He looks very frightened. And he says Trump is now on a witch hunt. How funny is that? And he also says Trump's team, listen to this. This keeps being repeated in different ways by all these people trying to spin this narrative. It's absolutely hilarious. It's not going to work because ultimately the facts and the evidence are going to decide, and we now have an hopefully we have an actual honest Attorney General who's going to make sure of it. But listen to this. Rhodes says Trump's team and associates coordinated with the hostile foreign power in order to try and cheat to get elected President of the United States. Then tried to obstruct justice and cover it up. Exactly. It's exactly what they did. And this is what you see the Democrats, it's right out of the Saul Alinsky playbook. Take exactly what you are doing to your opponents to destroy them and turn it around and say that they're the ones doing it to you. And then that way you just get in a pissing contest and people just throw up their hands at some point and can't decide. That's how you get away with doing these sort of things. But it's not going to happen if you have an honest Attorney General and plenty of evidence to make your case. And that's the problem these people have. The evidence simply doesn't support their conspiracy theory. It says something much different. It says that there was a palace coup. He also repeated the lie that the investigation of Trump started with Papadopoulos talking to Russians. Well, he wasn't talking to any Russians, Mr. Rhodes, and you know it. He was talking to Western intelligence spies. We've been through this time and time again. And now Papadopoulos is saying he's pretty damn sure convinced. He remembers the conversation with Downer well. And he's saying, man, I just don't remember saying anything to Downer about Russians or anything else. Of course, Mark Meadows has suggested that there may be a transcript from his conversation with Downer, possibly with Halper, one or both. I do hope that there is transcripts and that Barr is able to read those transcripts. And I think if we do get the transcripts, I think we're going to find a lot of things. Well, it'll bust these guys red-handed, basically. But we don't even need it. There's so much other evidence. Just unbelievable. Sky News is predicting that the Tories, that's the Conservative Party in the UK, will lose over 1,000 seats in local elections. Of course, the local elections there's around 6,000 seats, so that's about 1/6 turnover. That's pretty good for a brand new party. Like Brexit and the UKIP together probably, I guess is what he's talking about. That's a big swing of 1,000 seats. I sure hope so. The Brexit Party is now in third place in polling. That's Farage's party he just set up like a month ago. And here's a funny little story for you. The police in Brazil have taken a parrot into custody after it warned 2 drug dealers about an undercover raid. It literally squawked as these cops were staging themselves. It squawked, "The police! The police!" in Portuguese. Get your votes in for Dumbass of the Week. Get your votes in for Dumbass of the Week. Right there, Ben Rhodes. Man, he might be high on my list of Dumbass of the Week. Alrighty, thank you for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See ya. Bye.